Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we're here with Vincent of the Chill Room in Tempe, Arizona. And we're going to talk about all the things under the kava and non-alc umbrella. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Thank you so much for being here today, Vincent.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be interesting to be on a podcast here. I've always been listening to podcasts, so being on one's going to be a little bit different, I think.
Yes, and I am so glad that you're here because not only am I a big fan of your business and love hanging out there anytime I'm in town, but also I just think that you have some really interesting perspectives here that I think a lot of people are really going to love to hear about. So, all of that being said, I want to start by asking you, as owner of the Chill Room, what is the origin story of your business?
Sure. So it starts off in Florida. My cousin Robert and his family, Lynn, Joey, and Jesse, they actually started off as a smoke shop first. Then over time, they started noticing kava kratom kind of exploding in Florida. So then they changed their smoke shop into having a kava kratom bar. From there, it grew into what they're doing now, which is expanded to three bars in Florida, in Lake Worth Beach, and St. Pete. And then it now came over to us. And for us in Arizona, we never anticipated becoming a business or opening up a bar. It just kind of fell in our lap. Like Robert came back into, I would say, my life. He's been with my family, or my parents have known him for decades. But for me, he's just brand new. Family member came in, talked to us about this bar. My brother and I came and checked it out. I would say 2021 when we first checked it out, because I'm originally from the alcohol back end of things. Like I'm a bar guy, like bar hopping, drinking, and all that stuff. So it didn't really make sense to me that you'll have a bar that's alcohol free. Like, what's the point? What are you going to get out of it, especially if you're not drinking booze? But being there and seeing the atmosphere and seeing how people are interacting sober instead of wasted and blacked out, and seeing fights like I normally saw at bars, it's a very chill, very cool atmosphere. So when my brother and I saw that, we came back to Arizona, talked to our family about it, and said this might be something we'd be interested in, but we were kind of going in our own career paths at that point. But then I decided to quit my job at Amazon and then turn into, well, what do you want to do with your life, Vince? And the opportunity came up to going to Florida, moving there for a year, working underneath my cousins, and seeing what the process is and what comes in terms to running a kava bar, what the atmosphere is like, and just seeing the day to day. And it kind of convinced me that, yeah, this is something that me and my family could definitely run and do. And now we're here. So it's been a little adventure, and it's been a whirlwind considering we started with, we don't know, to now we're fully running and 7 months deep into having the bar open. So it's been a fun experience so far.
It's so cool to hear your story because, like, so many different people come into non-alc or sobriety with an asterisk space where, like, they have these ridiculous stories where, whether it's for health reasons, wellness reasons, just really cutting out alcohol. But the fact that you're coming into it from this perspective of, like, hey, I wasn't trying to leave alcohol. Like, it came to me. Like, that is so interesting to me, especially being that this is a family business. So, in your Tempe location, you also have your family working with you, but it's your nuclear family, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's just my mom and dad and my brother, Sal, Lisa, and Anthony. It's just us four. We do our best we can, especially with pretty much zero to a little bit of bartending experience, but kind of breaks down to, as long as the nucleus of the business is tight, like we talk about everything, we explain everything, it's you can kind of work through the inexperience of not running a bar, and of course the help of you and Marina and Tyler and my cousins as well with guidance. It's been a good experience so far, and it's just fun to kind of go through it as is, even without the experience that a lot of people usually jump into this business with.
Yeah, so true. And on that note, the fact that you are able to do this with your family, some families dream of it. Some people are like, I can't even imagine that. So, what was it like for your family to make this decision together? Like, yeah, Vincent, we'll go in, let's do this all together.
Kind of an interesting story because it's my parents are pretty much almost retired, my mom and my dad. Mom's been in the school system for decades, I should say. My dad's been a real estate agent, and they're not up there in age, but just up there to where it's almost retirement time. And then they were kind of looking at my brother and I'd be like, well, what do you guys want to do with your life? Like, I thought I would be in sales. My brother is a massage therapist. He thought he'd be in the wellness, and it just something changed along the way where I was like, I don't want to do sales anymore. I don't really know what to do. And then it kind of jumped to my parents, and they were kind of like, well, we want to see you guys do something that you enjoy. What would you think? And it kind of snowballed into, I don't know, I probably kind of almost became a school bus driver at one point. I was doing like driving. I was thinking about actually moving up to Montana for a little bit to become a bartender up there. And then the opportunity from my cousins came up being like, well, why don't you just open up a chill room or come out here and see it? So it kind of developed out of nowhere, really. And I have to give my parents the credit just to kind of give my brother and I the trust to want to be able to run a bar like that, especially with the investment given in there. So there was no real plan or reason. We kind of just looked at each other like, well, we're really close as is. I think we could do this and work together to make it something that can grow and something that could be a long lasting impact on the community. And so far it has been. So I wouldn't say it was planned. It was kind of like talked about, discussed, and then we just kind of looked at each other like, well, we like working with each other, so why not we just give this a whirl? And it's an expensive world to just kind of throw out there and be like, yeah, let's just do this type deal. But so far, it's been pretty beneficial for all of us, and we've been enjoying it so far.
I love that story. And I know that it's a hard-earned one because when, you're trying to figure out a lot of things together, there's a lot of ideas that kind of bounce around. One time you told me a story about a barbecue. Can you tell us, a little bit about what it's like to have a family barbecue and how that kind of inspired your confidence in being able to work together?
Sure, yeah. So we've been known, I would say we've been known as the host family for a lot of things. My dad's part of the musician world. You know how musicians are, they're very close knit. They like to hang out and do their thing. And just like in general, a lot of families are close knit. So what we've been doing for since as long as I can remember, just family barbecues where you just get like 20, 30 people coming to hang out, just family friends and doing our thing. And we'd usually be the ones that host. So at first, when you're a kid, you're just kind of like, oh, the old people are coming over. Oh, we have to talk to older people. But it kind of makes you develop and to be able to have conversations with individuals that are older than you. So it helps break that barrier, break the ice of being able to communicate with others that are older than you, or just being able to bring up random conversations with people. So that was like a good stepping stone for my brother and I, just to be able to do that, to talk to random people. But the core of it is that our family, again, used to host this stuff. So it kind of turned into like us as a family working together from the preparation, grocery shopping, cooking, being able to carry things back and forth from the stove to the grill outside to marinating to prepping and keeping our communication very linked just so the barbecues can run really well. And then I started to notice this, not the similarities, but kind of like the communication it takes to run a bar is kind of like the same way we would communicate at the barbecues, being like, this person needs to be taken care of, this needs to go to table seven. And it's just a really smooth transition into being able to work in a crazy, hectic bar, being like you're at home dealing with 30, 40 people, to now you're at a bar dealing with 50, 60 people a night, maybe more. And it just kind of engrosses you, and being able to rely on each other without having to say much. You just kind of look at each other, and there's a link there being like, okay, I know this needs to get done. Quick little, can you take care of this? Can you take care of that? Instead of having to explain to each other, we just know what needs to happen to get it done. So the family barbecue stuff was kind of like, I would say, our stepping stone into working that chemistry and becoming so close knit to where that running a bar is, again, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's just been something that we've been able to rely on to make it an easier process for us while we're still learning the industry in its own.
The barbecue test. It's such a good one. I love it this example so much because something that seems like a simple family get together, there's always something in every family dynamic that there is to overcome when it comes to either a communication or a process gap. And so, usually we get to lessons by the end of all of our episodes here, but I love this one right here because it's a great test. It's a great fun one, and you get to eat some delicious food along the way. And, if you've ever been to the Chill Room in Tempe specifically, you'll know what I'm talking about here when I say that the environment brought about is so warm and welcoming. It's so the last time I was in Tempe at the Chill Room, there was an open mic, and the open mics they start at 6 o'clock, right?
Start signing up at like 5:30, but the performers start around 6:15, 6:30.
Right. So that was when it started, but it went all the way until, my gosh, 10, past 10. I stayed up past my bedtime and I didn't even know it because I was having such a good time. But it was
In
so,
my
it was
opinion, it's still too long, but it's a good time.
It is. It's so like it was so cool because it's one thing to host an open mic, right? Like it's one thing to be able to, get people together, have the logistics of a sign-up sheet and a microphone and someone to run it. But it's another thing to be in an atmosphere that, or like create an atmosphere rather, that supports people to make them feel like they want to come back and you can actually see the growth. You see multiple themes coming up. And, I know you mentioned your dad as a musician, of course, has so much experience of bringing people together in this way. But what has it been like for you throughout all of these open mic experiences? Like, what's been one of the craziest, like, most memorable experiences for you running an open mic at the Chill Room?
I think the talent that comes through, like you can open up an open mic and you just open the doors and be like, okay, let's see what comes through. And you kind of are a little worried about who's going to be coming in, what songs they're going to be doing, the level of, I don't want to say professionalism, but the level of the talent that these people possess. And just honestly, every person that performs at the Chill Room has been absolutely amazing. And I do have to give a shout out to the customers at the Chill Room too. I mean, without you guys, it wouldn't have been easy, and especially how welcoming they are. So it's like we do really push to have a family like feeling to the bar itself, but you also have to rely on the customers to have give that feeling as well. And the amount of new people that come in from open mics, I mean, you see them coming in, sitting in the corner, kind of nervous because they're like, "Oh, I'm going to perform. I don't know how I'm going to sound like." You get in your head a little bit. But for the people that have been coming to the open mic since I would say since we're open, they see that and they feel that and they just bring them in. They bring them over to their table. They're talking. They go, "What type of music do you play?" And you see friendships and things develop. So as an open mic, you can do as much as you can to give that element, but it also comes down to the customers or the people that are just performing and accepting those new people in. So if you do get new people in, you see your customers rally around them, talk to them, and then you start seeing them jam together. It's a feeling that you get that you're doing it right, just because everyone in that room is having a good time. Everyone even comes up to us says that they feel like that they're part of the family that opened the chill room, and it grosses itself in that open mic every single time. So I would say to run a successful one, just let people do what they like when it comes to performances, and you'll see that room grow really quickly. And of course, also it helps that my dad, like you said, is a musician, so the stage he's built to give a real kind of authentic feel of what a performance should be like with great sound, PA control, and monitors. It adds to that element as well, because I've had people who go to these open mics tell me like there's nothing like this in Arizona because a lot of these open mics they just kind of throw you a microphone, plug in your guitar, and they're like, all right, just sing through the microphone, sing through the standard PA, and if it sounds like crap, it sounds like crap. But for us, we want to make sure that the performer is comfortable, and when you start seeing the performers are comfortable, you see a not a better act, but a more confident act. And when those individuals have confidence in what they're able to do, then you'll see it come through their performances, and then it just rallies the room together. It's really a sight to see, and it's awesome, and it's great. It's great that people are really rallying around it. It's going to be a staple for us for a very long time.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned this. There's so many things I love all the time. But you talk about this setup, a legitimate setup having making the biggest difference, right? So these things are not difficult to put together. This is just a great example of love, care, and attention and intention being put into the space. When I look at some other open mics I've seen throughout the years and the kind of vibes that they've given, I feel like a lot of times, um, man, I have this ridiculous picture in my head where it's like a lot of open mics are like, okay, well, here's all the misfits who are the black sheeps of their family, and we're all just hanging out here in some weird herd, but we're still feeling a little bit weird about it. But here's our family and like our chosen family, but like there's still something like I don't know how to put it, but there's something that still feels a little bit disconnected sometimes. And the difference with the open mic I've seen at the Chill Room is again with this family environment and this kind of, it really did remind me of a barbecue in the sense that there's this energy of movement. So it's not just, okay, everybody's staring at the stage or completely ignoring it. There is a movement in the space. So people are moving around. There's different people sitting in different seats as time progresses. So it's not that it ever emptied out, it's that things were constantly moving. So you'd get feedback from different people, you'd get different types of acts. There was someone who even did, I believe it was a spoken work on their sobriety journey, which again, I've been to open mics at other kava bars even, and I hadn't seen them be able to open up about that topic as much as they had at the chill room. I think that just goes to show how great it is to have that family environment. What's been the most moving thing that you've seen in the space up to this point? Like what story really sticks with you?
Are we talking performance wise or
It could be anything really.
I would say first thing that comes to mind is just the community we've built is really special, I would say. And again, it comes down to the customers you have. Like a lot of people always ask me, like, what was the one fear you had when you opened up the bar? And I said, I didn't really have a fear, but it was more of like a who are the regulars going to be? Because that's the one thing you can't control.
Ooh.
It's just whoever comes through that door is who comes through that door, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's not like you're going to turn someone away because you're like, oh, I don't like the way they are, who they are, and stuff like that. You just can't do that. That's not how you run a business. But for us, we were very lucky for the people that have come through and continue to come through. They've really, really taken up adherence to not adherence, but really taken in the vibe of what the bar is and what we're trying to do, and they've just taken it, embodied it, and ran with it. I mean, you can have all the fears being like, I don't know if we're going to make enough money, I don't know if we're going to do this, I don't know if we're going to do that, but it's the customers. Like you have to be able to love who you work with because you're working with the people that are patrons of the bar. They're not just customers or anything like that. They're people that support you, support what you're doing, and that's the most important part. So the fear of like not knowing who's going to walk through that door, who's going to be the mainstays that keep the lifeline of what you're trying to portray as owners bleed through to the customers. And I think that's the most important part is as long as your customers or the individuals that are your patrons are having a good time, then the people that come through or the new people that are looking for a safe, secure place to where they can do that open mic stuff where it comes to spoken word, where it comes to feeling comfortable enough to share something so deep and passionate to them is probably something I love the most. It's just seeing people who haven't met before, have no idea who they are, come together into a space and really become really good friends and get excited when they see each other. And I even hear people go, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Where have you been? And they get excited when they see somebody they haven't seen. And just that community part, that's probably been the most fun that it's been. And like you said, with the spoken word again, it's just that if you get that comfortability level, you'll see people who really want to share, but they don't feel comfortable doing that. But if you make that space to where it's like, hey, we're all going through trauma, we're all going through something. This is a stage to be able to share that and really also invoke emotions out of people. This is the safe space to do it. So I'd say that's the pride point for me, really.
You bring up a really interesting point about never really knowing who your regulars are going to be. And I feel like there's a lot of like, so for example, in multiple of my podcast episodes, whenever I talk to kava bar owners or third space non-alc owners, um, you know, there's always this, concept of I love my community, they're everything, it's indescribable, they're really cool. And even though that's consistent, one kava bar community is not necessarily going to be the same as another. Even though a lot of people
Oh
do
yeah.
go from one kava bar to another, it's always going to be a different vibe, even if it's the same chain. And I feel like, I've had business coaches in the past with some of my previous businesses that were like, you need to create an ideal customer avatar before you even get open and know who your people are. And I'm like, what fucking crystal ball am I supposed to look in to know? Like, you can know to a certain extent, but like, for example, you're in Tempe. Tempe's right next to ASU. You would assume it'd be like hella Gen Z. Oh my gosh, hella's not cool anymore. I just revealed myself. But point of this is last week I spoke with Trixie and Michael over at Astro Brew in Florida. They are in the Tampa Bay area, and they talk a lot about how Gen Z is huge. And a couple other kava bars I've talked to, they're super big Gen Z population. So even though Florida has like so many kava bars, it's almost like a lot of them, like a lot of the clients I'm working with, they're like, what can I do to position myself in a way that attracts people who aren't just Gen Z so that it's for everyone? But my experience in kava bars in Arizona is that's never been like every kava bar I've been to has had a variety of age groups and different types of regulars. So, who are your regulars? Who's hanging out by you? I'm so curious.
It's a huge. Mm, uh, it's tough to say because our age group is so vast. I mean, like in the beginning, it was very Gen Z. You had your 16 to 20, and then we jumped all the way to the other end of the spectrum to probably 55 to older. So it was more of like, how do we get the people my age? I'm 31. So to get people my age to come into there, because for my demographic, it's still booze, it's still alcohol. They're still trying to find their way around it or be able to have it a part of their lives to where it's not as like excessive because the hangovers start kicking in. They start doing like, well, if I drink today, it's going to be a nightmare tomorrow. So I have to make sure everything's done. So for our regulars, it's kind of up and really young to a lot older. And it's been jumping around, but we're starting to see a bigger mix of things. And like you were saying, like when I was in Florida for that year, I was doing a lot of kava bar hopping to see what their like customers were like and just to see what they're doing. And it, the demographic per bar is really weird. It's just all over the place. It really depends on, like you said, your location, and kind of how you advertise what you're doing. So for our regulars, it's definitely the younger end, but then we also have the older crowds. Like we can really see the change in the chill room here. Like in the beginning of the day, it's kind of like working class, and we get a lot of people from 30 to 40 either on a break or they're remote, so they come in, do work there, do studying. Then when an event happens, it's more of like the older crowd, depending on the artist. So say like we get Walter Richardson in, who's a local legend in Tempe. He brings an older crowd because he's been playing open mics, doing tours and stuff like that across the country for decades. So when he plays, it's more of like the 50 to 60 range, older range for that spot. And then after his show's over, between 9 and midnight, that's when the Gen Zers or people my age start coming in. So it's a real melting pot of age groups when it comes to who's coming in through that door. But it's also a good mixture, and you really see that at the open mics. Like you have people from Gen Z to all the way to 70, and they're talking to each other. They're having a good time. They're swapping stories. They'll even talk to each other about performing together at the open mic. So there's not a real age demographic now as to what our regulars are now. In the beginning, it was very apparent what age group is going to be at one time. Now it's like you just walk through that door, you don't know what the age group's going to be. It's very a mass now, which we love.
Oh, so it really is the family barbecue. Everyone from all different walks of life, they're all coming in to the watering hole, which is so cool. But they're not drinking the same drinks, are they? Like, do you notice is it kind of just all over the place? Everyone enjoys everything, or have you noticed that like, okay, like when this group is in, they really like this way more? Like, have you noticed anything like that at all?
Yeah, so the Gen Zers are definitely more into the kava kratom aspect of things. We get a couple people that are older that are willing to try it and give it a whirl, but the older individuals, they drop more into the cocktail space that we do. And with that, we use Three Spirits, who are a great company for the mocktail part, but it still gives you a feeling or some sort of mood change, which people are looking for from alcohol, anyways, that release, that be able to kind of, I don't want to say disassociate, but I don't know a better word, but to kind of break that reality from like, oh, I just worked a 10-hour day. I'm going to drink a couple beers and kind of relax and tone down. For us, when it comes to the older crew, it's more of the cocktail stuff. So they're not getting intoxicated. They're getting that relief in a more natural way. So the cocktails are more them. The Gen Zers kind of dabble with the cocktails. They'll jump on it here and there just to kind of change it up. But for them, it's kava kratom. For the older people, it's the cocktails. And there's some people that are in between. They'll drink a kratom drink, and then they'll drink a kava drink, and then they'll jump to a cocktail just to kind of end their night and switch up their flavor palettes in regards to what they can get at the chill room here. So it's all over the place, but definitely the drinks are pretty much delegated to kava kratom younger. Cocktails are a little bit of the older crowd.
Hmm. Interesting distinction. And I think, when I think back to all the choices I make when I'm in kava bars as a millennial and, the experience I had when I was behind the bar, you're right. It's like the older than millennials specifically. are really into non-alc cocktails. Millennials, I mean, at least the ones I was serving. So I only know what I know in what I was specifically serving in the kava bar, but millennials really liked kava and kratom the most. But the thing is, most millennials, like they had already we've already been on Earth a little bit longer than Gen Zs, so we have gone to the smoke shops and tried the garbage product and had the terrible nights. so, it's like Gen Z heard about that on TikTok, and so they're all just like, they're just worried about all these things, right? Like that's what the worry got them away from alcohol, which is a good thing, but the worry also gives them some interesting perspective on certain botanicals. So I'm curious, have you had because I've heard this feedback before, but I'm like, really? That never happened to me. Have you ever had like a someone come up to you and show you a TikTok and be like, kava or kratom kills people. Like, are you really going to serve this? Like, have you ever had anything like that happen, or has everybody been pretty open to your products?
Never had anything happen like that. I mean, I've seen it on TikTok, like especially when you're opening up the bar, you start diving into the social media realm, being like, what can I post? What can I say? Instagram and Facebook is pretty cut and dry when it comes to you can post what you like. We'll section it off when it comes to certain countries or communities. But TikTok, Jesus, it's such a hot spot. Like you look up kava and they praise it. They go, it's the greatest thing ever, helps with anxiety. You can get it at like nutritional stores, you can get pills, you can get tinctures. When you jump to kratom, it's like 9 out of the 10 videos you find is, oh, my cousin died from this, or my cousin overdosed on this, or I have a family friend that died. If you're like worried about opiates, don't drink kratom because then you'll become addicted to it, and next thing you know, you'll be doing heroin. It's TikTok is one of the craziest spots when it comes to that information. And granted, it's not, as in my opinion, like all lives have a little bit of truth to it. So I get it that it is part of the detoxing process for ex heroin addicts or ex addicts in general when it comes to kratom. And I've had individuals even tell me, like, when I cut out heroin, I started drinking kratom, and then I got addicted to kratom, and now I'm trying to kick that. So there's not a lot of lies when it comes to kratom, but definitely haven't had people come in being like, hey, why are you serving this poison? Like, look at this TikTok, look at this information, like this kills people. Haven't had that, but the misinformation definitely kind of worries people a little bit. Like, I've definitely had people come in being like, hey, if I drink this, will this destroy my liver? Or will I become absolutely addicted to it to where I become crippled if I don't drink it? Like, anything that you do in life can become an addiction. Like, even if you drink too much water, you can die from that. You can get sick, you can get throw up, or if you overindulge even in something healthy, it can still become something that you can become reliant on or dependent on. And next thing you know, if you try to cut it out, you get withdrawals. It's just the human body and how it works. So it's kind of breaking those stigmas when it comes to kava and kratom, being like, yes, it is a substance that you can become habit forming or can become something that you rely on. And yes, it does do certain things to your liver because the way it digests and the way your body processes it. But it's like anything else in life. If you eat too much sugar, you become diabetic. If you drink too much alcohol, you get liver failure, you get liver disease. If and this happens to your body like anything else. So it's more about sharing the information, being like, listen, do it in doses, do it in the right process that works for you. But when we do see people that are really drinking a lot of it, we do tell them like, hey, you've had this many so far. I see your tab. Maybe tone it out for a couple days, chill out for a little bit, and we try and guide our customers to make sure that they aren't becoming dependent or aren't really overdoing it because of the not the damage that it can do, but just the reliance and what it kind of turns into for them. Because some people really do chase that high, and you don't want to have people doing that because that causes more harm than good. And that's not the purpose of a bar. It's to make sure that you're getting away from the alcohol, make sure you're getting away from what you're worried that the alcohol atmospheres bring. Here's another thing you can do. It's natural. It's better than you in so many ways that alcohol is, but like anything else, it has its damages, it has its concerns. So it's educating the community of what the possibilities can be instead of using the scare tactics that are on TikTok saying like, oh, if you drink this, you'll get addicted and die. It's not that case. It's, drink what you need, drink what you feel sufficient for, but don't chase it or don't overindulge because like anything, damage can happen no matter what you overindulge in. It just happens.
Hmm. This is such a important topic here because, you know, I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to actually tell two stories really quick. And one of
Sure.
them is my husband's story, which I haven't gotten to tell yet. So this will be a special one. But, um, you know, right before I tell that one, there was one industry leader that I had a meeting with in the past month or so. And I was just getting to know this person and, just trying to see, what do they do in the industry? What do I do so that we can see how we can help each other and help other businesses. And she's way more in the non-elk space, and she's the type of non-elk person that does not want anything that is psychoactive. So no kava, no kratom, no well, not that they're really psychoactive, but there's an effect there that really does change, like it's a mood boosting quality. She definitely doesn't touch anything cannabis hemp related. um,
Hmm.
and so she's very, and she doesn't even like drinks that have too much capsaicin or anything that has the bite. So she is that special category of sober that is like not even, I don't know about caffeine, but nothing else, that's for sure. And, every kava bar, every establishment is going to have people to serve who are in that category. And sometimes, usually, that person will not come into a kava bar by themselves. Typically, that person will come in with a group of people that's a little bit more open minded. And then that's the friend that drags along that's like, oh, okay, let's figure it out. So I tell this story because, like, I know a lot of business owners, new business owners that are opening their spaces. I get these questions all the time, like, how do people act in these spaces? Like, what kind of, like, are they going to come at me and ask me impossible questions? Like, is it going to feel like I need a PhD in botany to run this store? And the answer is like, no, because truthfully, most people who come in, um, like I said, the ones who have the sharp feelings on stuff, they're going to come in a group. So going back to that story I was telling, this individual had very sharp feelings about kava and kratom, and said that was the reason that one, like someone that was very close to them, had passed. And of course, they dropped that bomb on me in the last 30 seconds of our meeting. And I had another meeting right after that. So I didn't even have the opportunity to really sit down and be like, okay, my friend, let's have a conversation. So this story is dedicated to that conversation because that was an industry leader that I literally lose sleep. I lose sleep over this meeting, the fact that I didn't get to connect that dot with them. So, I'm going to send this podcast out to them and just know I do this lovingly. So here's my husband's story. So, my husband and I, we met while I was a kava tender behind the bar, and he was one of my regulars. And when he became my regular, he'd already been sober, I believe at that point, almost 4 years, and he had had a heroin addiction. And so his body, and he's also native, so he has like alcohol doesn't, he does not even interact with his body well, and his body actually like physically reacts very obviously. So for example, if there's bad kratom, he'll get this rash, this like opioid type rash.
Oh
I
wow.
tell I tell this story because, my husband, like if anybody knows him today, they know he's the sweetest, most incredible, like confident,
The
loving
best.
person. Yeah, he's a teddy bear. I love him so much. And you wouldn't even think of that he had ever been through something so difficult like that before. But we have kratom brewing every single day in my home. I don't drink it every day. He does. But do you know that that's the thing that, like, you know, when we talk about what saves or doesn't save people's lives and what allows people to continue living life in a way, like, you never know what people's, like, everybody has different baselines, right? Like everybody has a different baseline in terms of what they have to deal with in their brains, or whether that's like how their brains were born or because of trauma, or maybe just whether that trauma wasn't emotional or anything, maybe it was a physical thing that happened. Like some people who get in car accidents and they hit their head, they become really irritable and stressed out all the time. Or veterans with PTSD, they can't sleep because they've been trained to be hyper aware all the time, so they need help sleeping. But too much melatonin, and that can mess with you too. So it's like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
where's the middle ground? So point of me telling this story here is, when I think about the people who have told me, like, okay, well, someone died because of kratom, I'm going to tell you this. And this is like this is one of those hard things that I'm going to stand behind it, but I'm going to drop the mic real quick and say kratom was not their first substance. I can almost guarantee it. I've never in my
Right.
life ever heard of someone picking up kratom for the first time and then having a whole terrible situation. Typically, they already touched other drugs or they'd already touched other things that destroyed their liver, destroyed their pleasure centers in their brains. And if anything, kratom gave them a little bit more life than they would have if they didn't have it. And I know that that is a bold claim, and I am not a doctor saying this. So this is just a very opinionated thing to say, but in my experience of years in this industry and decades in the nightlife entertainment industry, really getting to know people like y'all, this is my home. Like I've never seen someone start at kava and kratom and then go a weird route. I've only ever seen them kind of get out of hell, and this is the drink that kind of meets them on the other side, or at least helps them to it. Although when I say that, that's I know that that's just my experience, and of course my husband's, and then my husband's family story dives even deeper with kava. We won't get into that in this moment, but um, I would love to hear from you, Vincent. Like, have you seen anybody who has had like a really positive turnaround? Like, do you have people who come in who they're like, look, if I don't have this kava or kratom, like shit's gonna go downhill.
Not so far. I mean, like you said, the space is very ex addict, ex whatever. So you're getting the alcoholics, you're getting the ex drug users, and that's usually their segue from that life into a more healthier lifestyle. I would say when it comes to kava and kratom. But when it comes to questions, it's mostly the individuals that have been drinking kava and kratom that I get the most questions from. It's like, where is this from? How do you do this? How do you do that? When you get a new
Mm.
person, they kind of just want to know, what does this do? What's the feeling? If you have somebody that asks like a ton of questions, like, oh, I've read this would kill you, or I read that you can become addicted to it, it's mostly a new person who asks that because they've read something on TikTok or they saw something on the internet, and now they're in a place that serves this stuff. So now they're going to ask these questions instead of kind of relying on the internet space to answer it for them. But when it comes to individuals coming in, yeah, usually ex addicts, like you said. I don't really meet a lot of new people that are coming in here being like, hey, I just heard of kava and kratom. Can you give this to me? Type deal.
Right.
It's more of like it's an education part for the new people. It's they just kind of go, well, what is it? What does it do? And then as soon as you tell them the effects, they're more willing to try it, or at least give them a sample to get an idea for it. I haven't had anybody come up to me and go like on a tirade, be like, oh, you're selling stuff that kills people, you're damaging the community instead of helping. So I haven't had to deal with that. Not even close. Just a few questions here and there, but nothing crazy.
I love that. That just gives me so much like just like a breath of fresh air, because I feel like, sometimes being in the coaching space of entrepreneurs, a lot of people put a lot of fears in my lap, which is a good thing. That's my job. My job is to hear the fear and help absolve it and solve the problem. And, with my years behind the bar, I never remember okay, there's one story I have, literally only one, of someone trying to say that kratom sending people to the hospital and is like doing all this bad stuff. And the only reason that person literally was giving that feedback and had called the health department on us was only because I
Whoa.
I banned it was only because I banned them because they were being inappropriate with other people. Like they were saying really nasty things to the women in the bar. And I was like,
Ugh.
no, buddy, you got to get out. And his response was to try to put me through the ringer, quite frankly. So every government agency possible that could oversee our business, I had to interact with over the following month. And I will say, I will always ban shitty people who treat people terribly and deal with going through the
100%.
ringer, rather than like, I'd rather do that than not go through the ringer. But what that process taught me was it is it is a wild west botanical, right? There are some states that have gone through some lengths to protect it, like Florida. They protect it by making it 21 and up. I know it doesn't sound like protection, but it is.
It still gives
Whereas,
it governments like there's some regulation on it. Like Arizona, it's Doug Ducey. He put it in that it can't be sold to minors. So 18
yeah,
or older, you have to get it. So I get what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. without that, it kind of feels like the wild, wild west, and the government will just jump on it and be like, well, we need to regulate this thing. And next thing you know, it's insanely ridiculous regulations that make no sense. So with that little regulation, at least gives a buffer for most things.
Exactly. And at least a little bit of guidance in how to serve will not only protect the consumers, but like protect all of the industry at large, right? Like I just found this out, so it's on my to-do list to take care of. But in the state of Nevada, so there's only a couple kava bars, well, one and a half kava bars, I'll say here. And there's been talk of all these other people who want to open kava bars here, but I hadn't seen anything happen. And I recently learned that the health department is putting just like a pause on allowing any other kava bars in the state because they just have no idea. They're like, I don't know what this is, so we're just going to say no for now. And the current kava bars that are here, like they're all grandfathered in for now, but no new ones can come up. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be non-alc lounges. All
Right.
that means is I have to go have a conversation with the Clark County people, and that's all right. I'm gonna go do that, and I'll give y'all an update after I do that. But the reason this kind of thing happens is because of unknown. It wasn't because something bad happened in Nevada. Like no one, it's not like anyone had turned in, like called the health department and was like, this kava bar is horrible and it shouldn't be here. And then that's why that happened. It was just because the health department started receiving more and more requests on something they didn't know anything about. So they said, I'm scared. No, thank you. Because they get so much money from gambling. So Las Vegas and Clark
Hmm.
County, they don't take chances. Like it seems like a gambling city, but when it comes to government, they gamble nothing here. So you have to, like, you're behind like 12 pieces of fucking red tape here compared to like five in other places. So, all that being said, I feel like fear is the reason that fear of the unknown is what makes people feel some type of way about what we do rather than like actual anecdotal real life experience like from your life, at least in my experience.
No, 100%. I mean, even when we opened here, I mean, you already know the regulations of kava and kratom changed in Arizona right before we opened. We had to go through the ringer with that, and that's exactly right. I mean, it's the fear. It's like governments know where their money is coming from, but when they're seeing something that they're not aware of or don't really know why it's a trend in opening, and they have no ways of either regulating it or doing what they can to make the money they think they should be making off of these type of businesses, that's when the fear for them starts kicking in. It's like, well, there's no real claims that people are getting hurt from this, but in the end, it's like we don't know what this is, so we have to regulate it to possibly either profit from it or maybe even do the regulations because they want to protect people from it. So that's usually the main case when it comes to that. But in my experience, it's like you said, it's the fear of not knowing what it is, seeing these bars start popping up, and now all of a sudden the whole state's ran by kava kratom bars. They're like, we don't even know what this is. Is this even safe? So it's
Yeah.
the fear part for sure.
Yeah. And all that being said, that means that you, Vincent, and everyone else who owns a kava bar, I just think is courageous. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, you're brave, like throw in shade kind of a way. I mean, truly, there's um there's an exciting there's an excitement to the unknown, the Wild West, especially us in Arizona, we know. But like in general, when you have any business venture, there's always unknowns, even in even completely regulated industries. Even if we look at the most boring industry ever, which is like, I don't know, tax accountants. That sounds pretty lame, but that's like literally that's nothing but regulation. Sorry, tax accountants out there.
Right.
I'm not calling you lame. I'm just saying that's not my job. But like the concept
They
of
know. They know it's
yeah,
boring.
they know they're not in it because it's intellectually stimulating, but the structure of it is what I'm saying. Even doing that, there's still unknowns to starting that business because you have to learn what you don't know and figure out what you don't know so you can go learn it and adjust from there. So hats off to you for doing the thing and not just closing for any just like, oh, I'm scared. Like you push through it, you do the thing, and you have an incredible product. And I cannot wait until the next time I come back to the chill room because it's one of my favorite places, honestly, in the world at this point because of the environment that you guys bring, the drink quality, you have fresh ingredients, and just great job. Well done.
Thank you, thank you. And then to all the new bar owners that are thinking about opening up one, it's a tough hill to sled, especially when it comes to government regulation. It means one day you say this is what you're going to do. They don't say anything to you. And then 2 months later, they go, hey, we decided to change everything, scrap your menu, start over. So all we can really say is keep chugging along. Just do it for the right reasons. If you're coming into this thinking, oh, I'm going to just do this because it's easy money, you're not in it for the right reasons. It's supposed to be a community space to help people out. Of course, the money is nice, but you want to build a community. That's the main reason why you're doing this. You're building something that is going to help people. It's going to be able to be a safe space for all walks of life. It does. You don't have to be an ex-alcoholic, ex-drug addict to do this. You can just be somebody that's sober or somebody that's just likes to do things that doesn't require an environment to feel like you have to drink. It's supposed to be a safe space, and that's the way you should look at it. And you're going to be put through the ringer as you go. It's just like any other business. That's just what happens. Even bars that have been existing for decades go through the ringer at some point just because of a new regulation or a license update change is now putting them at bay. It's supposed to be something that you know that it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of regulations. It's going to be, quite frankly, fucking hell when you first open because you're trying to figure out this new landscape, this new enterprise you're joining into. But what makes it worth it are the people you meet, the friendships you build from there, and also seeing the friendships that other people are building with each other that A, probably would have never met because they didn't know that this other person existed. I mean, think about it. For Phoenix, it's a city of, I don't know, I think it's 5 to 6 million people all living in one city, have never met, but then you come together in one spot and now you're best friends because you never thought this would be a situation that you'd be meeting people at a sober bar that you really enjoy and really get around to. So don't look at a kava bar as a cash cow because that's you're going into it for all the wrong reasons. It's to build something to bring people together. Everything else will flow as it flows, but just open knowing that you're building something that's going to help the community and that's why you're doing it.
Yeah, it's true. And that being said, I'm going to ask you my favorite question. If there is something in the industry that you feel is lacking or that you just wished existed and you had a magic wand to wave it into existence, what would it be?
Um, I think everything's pretty standard. I mean, everyone's always going to say the educational part, being able to get something together to get new people who have a lot of questions about Kava Kratom and being able to teach that. But that's in like every other business. So I don't think there's a magic wand that can really make things easier. It's just, I would just say the education part. If people were able to just walk in and be like, oh, I'm willing to try this instead of walking in with fear or walking in with, I have to feel like I have to know what's going on before I drink this product. That'd probably be the only thing. Or the magic wand would probably be like the government fucking off, I guess. Like just to let us do what we're doing, especially that it doesn't harm
Hmm.
individuals. I mean, of course, and anything you do in excess is going to harm. I mean, like you can look at a bar and you can see that most of the regulars in there are dealing with some sort of liver problem because of their drinking, or they're drug addicts going into certain areas because it's a quote unquote safe space for them. So I'd say the magic wand is the government to fuck off and just let us do what we're doing because we're not doing this to harm people. It's not our case. It's a case to where we want to bring people in again to build a community, have people meet each other, and do it in a sober space instead of you meet somebody at a bar at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're blacked out. You wake up the next day, you're like, fuck, I didn't get their number. I don't know, remember their name. It's you're having genuine conversations, you're having genuine feelings shared. So, government, let us do what we're doing. We're not doing anything to harm anybody. I get you need your slice of the pie as well, but we're not doing anything to harm anybody. It's the whole purpose of this is to grow a community and do things we like. So, the magic wand, government, fuck off.
It's perfect. I love that. And I second that. It's like, we're just trying to help people and there's always that one like I always say that rules are made by people who like they're not made for 99% of people. They're made for that
Right.
1% of people who just don't have the sense of how is this going to affect others? And that's honestly what it comes down to. So, I love that like the chill room is just chill, everybody just chill. We're gonna have a good time. And I feel like people are open to education and already being open to try new things when they come into an establishment based on that chill, comfortable environment where, you know, if the business owner is constantly worrying about the government and what regulations are going to consistently be changing here without, and I'm telling you, you guys, like if you've never experienced this before, it's not like there's some government.com newsletter we can all sign up to. Like it's not like we
Right.
get this like, oh my God, I wish maybe I'll look into seeing if I can make something happen of some kind. But like as of right now, it doesn't exist. There's no one-stop shop to see like if you want to open this, you got to just like kind of find out. So yeah, having being
Right.
able to have a business owner be in a relaxed state enough to be able to be focused on serving their community, you're not going to have problems. Most kava bars don't have those problems. So I wholeheartedly agree with you there. And my final question of the hour is, is there anything else going on at the chill room? Is there anything on the horizon or any fun events or anything you want to tell us about?
We're just doing the day to day. We're just doing our own thing. We have events, I would say minimum 5 days a week. So we always got shows going on. Let's see what's going on this week. I don't even know off the top of my head anymore. But back to what you were saying before, especially with the community part, it's so important. It's so important. And it just the name and the atmosphere really dictates what your customers are going to feel when they walk into that room. So if you have a room called like the killing floor, the whole bar is dark and it's grimy, you see people's attitudes kind of change because the atmosphere dictates the mood. So if you have a really aggressive name or a really aggressive decor, people start to feel that and then their mood changes to that decor and what's going on. So for us to be called the chill room and for the layout of everything we do, it's very relaxed, it's very easy colors. You can see kind of people's mood changes. Like they walk in, their faces light up, their eyes, you can see like a relaxing calm go over their eyes and you can see them chill out and relax. And even the people that we get coming in who think we are an alcohol bar, they get upset that we don't serve alcohol. Not like mad, but they go, well, damn, this place is so cool, but I'm looking for a beer, I'm looking for a cocktail. And then unfortunately they do leave. They're not open to trying it, but just seeing that they get upset that this isn't a place that they want to not want to be in, but more of like are looking for their booze and it's not like any other bar that they've seen. It's a testament to what we're trying to build in general. So
Mhm.
going back to that for sure. But when it comes to stuff going on, I mean, we do sip and paint. That's an event we've been trying to really build and grow. So it's like you're able to pick up any sort of cocktail, tea, sip on that while we have an instructor on stage painting, doing stuff like that. My mom actually runs that. A big show that we're actually excited for is this Saturday. It's with Jaden Chavez. He's amazing, great artist, great person. Our normal open mics every Friday that we do, again, every Friday. Probably never going to change because of the atmosphere that brings. And then our karaoke rotation that we do every other Thursday. So no real big events coming in for us besides we're coming up on our 1 year, which is going to be in October 10th, I think. God, it's been
Oh, that's crazy.
scary. So we're actually throwing in a lot of things together. We're talking about doing a lot of performances, and like I said, my dad's a musician, so we've been talking to him to see what kind of shows we can pull together for that. We're talking with Walter Richardson about that. So that probably be the biggest thing coming in the horizon is our 1 year anniversary. But anything we do on the week is on our website. It's going to be the Chill Room Tempe.com. So if you want to look at our events page, go through our website, see what's coming up. Got something new going on every day. So feel free to check out that website and hopefully we get to see a lot more new faces. We love seeing new faces. That means it's new people coming in that we can hopefully call regulars and meet our regulars and grow the community from there. It's all community based and we love meeting new people all the time.
Yay! Yes, check out the description of this episode to find that link as well. And you'll also see the Instagram link if you want to go ahead and give a follow. And to really echo that final sentiment of this episode, there's a lot more to a name than just the way it sounds. If anybody's ever adopted a dog from the shelter, you know that they like to name pit bulls Beast for some reason. They're all named Beast in there and they never
Or
get adopted
nightmare.
or Nightmare or something like ridiculous. I think I saw one that was called Blade with a Y. And I was like, what? Like, why would you?
Okay.
And I'm like, well, if you named him Fluffy or Angel, he probably would have been adopted. So the same goes for your kava bar, the way you name your items, your menu, your decor. Yeah, so I really love that you brought that point up. Thank you again so much for all of the information and all of your time today, Vincent. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Marina. Hopefully this was a good episode. No, no, not a lot of good information, and all the new kava bars out there. Just keep trekking. It's still a new industry for the government. It's gonna People are gonna jump onto it. It's just people are starting to really start cutting away from alcohol. I mean, a big indicator is watching the alcohol companies start doing a lot of alcohol free stuff. I mean, White Claws are starting to do alcohol free, which is like a LaCroix, so it doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense to me. But they're starting to see it. So it's going to be tough sledding in the beginning. Everyone thinks you open up the doors, people flood in because it's new, it's something different. People have a routine. People have their own ways of going about their life. Sooner or later, things change in their lives, and they're looking for that new spot for them to explore that. And as long as you're chugging along, you're updating things, you're bringing in new things, people are going to be more inept to come in and check out the new spot. So don't give up within the first 60 days, 90 days. It's going to be tough sledding for the first year, 2 years, maybe even longer. So just do what you got to do, keep doing what you're doing, and keep trucking. That's all I can say.
Yes, because it is worth it. If anybody
Very
has
worth
any,
it.
yes. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything at all for either myself or Vincent, please feel free to send an email, hello@marinamars.com, and I will make sure that we get those questions answered in some context for sure. If anything else comes up, just let me know if you need anything.